The point that I chose from the book Second Chances is that every choice has a consequence. A quote from the book that Chuck Gallagher says was, "My choices had come full circle, shattering my former self, but perhaps that had to happen so I could accomplish what my mother told me so many times when she said, 'Son, you can be somebody.' Perhaps I had to face this time alone to come to understand I was somebody." Chuck Gallagher realized that in order to overcome his poor decisions, he would have to face the consequences that came with it. When you constantly make poor moral decisions over and over, there will always be a negative consequence that follows. Although consequences for all actions, Although there are consequences for all actions, that does not mean that all consequences have to be negative. For example, you can decide to not study for an upcoming test, but there will probably be a negative consequence that follows. Or you can choose to study for the test and probably receive a good consequence for doing so. When you constantly make poor decisions over and over, there will always be a negative consequence that follows, no matter what. When you're faced with an ethical dilemma where you have to make a very important decision, there are two choices that you have to make, or that you can make. The first choice is the morally right decision, and the second is the decision that is wrong, but it's the decision that you like the most, so that you choose it. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of good examples of how to not make the wrong decisions. I've witnessed two of my aunts struggle with addiction to alcohol and drugs, and because of those examples in my life, I know that I cannot make those decisions because it only leads to bad things. Another example of a decision that will eventually have negative consequences is when you decide to text and drive. Although that decision does not seem very important at the time, if you repeatedly make that same decision over and over, it can potentially have a life-changing or life-ending effect. If I remember all of the life lessons that I've learned from my parents and the life lessons that I've experienced myself, then I will be able to make the best decision possible. Since I've gained all this knowledge on what decisions I should make in life, I am able to pass those ideas down to my friends, family, and also maybe my kids in the future, just as my parents did for me.